Could I get you up? Oh, yeah, well.
We'll talk about that.
I know. Hey, Thursday, will. Good evening. If I could get everybody to take a seat, please. Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, June the 18th. A little bit about our agenda tonight. In a minute, Jennifer Lane is going to lead us through the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by two recognitions. We'll do those two recognitions. I'll do them from down off the dais on the floor. And then we'll have a brief comment period for anybody on council that would like to reminisce about their experience with Councilmember Young. And then we'll move straight into canvassing the election and the oath of office. So at this time, Jennifer Lane, are you ready for the invocation?
Everybody please stand. I invite you to pray with me. O God, from whom all power comes, by whose divine will all must abide, we thank you for our civil liberties and freedom, for our opportunities and our privileges. As the pages turn this evening and we enter into a new chapter for the city of Sugar Land, we ask you, God, that you bless our beloved councilwoman and long-standing pillar of Sugar Land, Bridget Young. Guide, protect, and inspire her in all of her grand future endeavors. God, we ask that you bestow upon Noshad Kermali your gifts of wisdom, right judgment, knowledge, and understanding as he takes his seat as councilman to serve our great city. God, we thank you for all men and women who serve in leadership roles in our community and for their families. Please provide our leaders with reminders each day of why they decided to dedicate their time to public service and to use that commitment to encourage them every day. We also pray specifically for the wives and husbands and children of our leaders. We ask that you draw near to them and give them the wisdom on how to best support each other while their loved ones are away serving. God, we are so grateful for the staff of our leaders. We ask that you cast out a shield of protection over them, wrap your arms around these men and women, and show them love, grace, strength, and encouragement. And finally, God, we are so grateful to be living in a democracy where many play a part in making sure the needs and desires of our citizens are heard and met. As the Sugar Land City Council members work together to find solutions to difficult problems, we ask that you guide us to speak respectfully with humility to one another as we advocate for our constituents and others. We humbly ask for your blessings. Amen.
Amen.
And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first recognition tonight is Clemens High School, who had second place in the Floriculture Texas FFA, Future Farmers of America, State Career Development. And I'm going to ask Miss Carol Scott if she could join me here. Their teacher, I'll go with professor, Miss Ashley Schaffler. Ashley. And then I'd like the students to join us up here. Isabella Galemi, Emma Lee, and Miss Catherine Scott. Ladies, if you could kind of get right over here. This evening we're recognizing the members of the Clemens High School Future Farmers of America for placing second place in floriculture during the Texas FAA state career development event on May 3rd of this year at Sam Houston State University. This development, career development, builds on what is learned in agricultural classes and encourages members to put their knowledge into practice. They're designed to help a member prepare for a career in agriculture by testing and challenging the student's technical, leadership, interpersonal, and teamwork skills, as well as their knowledge of the subject matter. A total of 1,113 schools competed from across the state. They placed second. You can clap. City of Sugar Land would like to congratulate Catherine Scott, Isabella Galemi, and Emma Lee on a great accomplishment. And Haley Neck. I guess Haley couldn't make it. Haley couldn't make it. I've got a proclamation, but I'm also going to ask, before I read the proclamation, if any of you all would like to speak. Ashley, I think I talked you into it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Schaffler. I am the agricultural science teacher and FFA advisor at Clements High School. And I had the privilege to work with these wonderful young ladies this past spring, training, preparing them for the career development event, the floriculture competition. Just a few highlights. Mayor Zimmerman covered a lot of them, but they placed second in the whole entire state of Texas, and that's from 1A to 6A. All high schools compete on the same level. And so pretty much every single high school in the state of Texas that competes in the floriculture contest, they beat out except for one. They actually were shy of first place by 3 points, and only one team advances to nationals. It is the highest that Clements High School has ever placed in a career development event ever. And so it's a great accomplishment for these young ladies. One more thing, Emma actually got high individual. All three of these ladies were in the top 20 as individuals, but Emma Lee got first place overall the entire state of Texas.
A little background, I had a chance to attend a Fort Bend ISD school board meeting, and I got there a little bit early. There was a long line, and I happened to run into Carol and these young ladies, and actually Ashley too. And for about 45 minutes, they didn't just entertain me, they educated me on Future Farmers of America and what that meant to them personally in their lives. I would tell you that these ladies, Carol, and I think some of the moms are out in the audience, have done an extraordinary job of developing these young women, and we look forward to them coming back. And I don't think we have any FFA stuff on council, but we'd be happy to have you run for council and mayor. So let me read our proclamation. It's for the Clements FFA, placed second in Texas FFA Career Development Event on May 3rd of 2019. Whereas the Texas Future Farmers of America is the nation's largest state FFA association with a membership of more than 129,000 active FFA members. Agriculture, food, and natural resource programs teach skills in leadership, career development, and personal growth, and give students the opportunity to apply classroom knowledge to real-world experiences through competitions. And whereas on May 3rd, 2019, the members of the Clements FFA chapter traveled to Sam Houston State University to compete in the state floriculture career development event and placed second out of 1,113 entries. Team members included Catherine Scott, Isabella Galemi, Emma Lee, and Haley Neck. And Emma Lee placed first in the individual competition. This is a record for highest placing that a Clements High School team has received in any CDE state contest, and it's given under my hand as the mayor. Congratulations, Ashley, for you as the, I don't want to call you a teacher, professor, and for these young ladies in an extraordinary accomplishment. I know, Carol, you were involved with that too. Anything that, we're going to do pictures. We're big on pictures around here. I'm going to let you all hold this. And then if I get council, if I could kind of move. And any of the other parents that want to come up, please. No? Come on, Dad, you're okay. Get up here. Okay.
All right, everyone up here, please. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very welcome. Great seeing you again. I'm going to ask Chris Stubing, our Assistant City Manager, to join me. And this recognition is for Clark Peschel. And where is Clark? There he is. Stand up, Clark. Come on down. For 34 years of service to the city of Sugar Land. I'm going to go ahead and let Chris introduce that, and then I'll have a few words, too.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be remiss if I didn't get the opportunity to stand up and say some words about Clark and his service, not only to the city, to the community as a whole. In my 12 and a half years of stuff working here, I've worked side by side with Clark for many years and get the good fortune to be a supervisor now for the past 2.5 years. But Clark's service to the city for over 34 years has been exemplary, leading the Permits Inspections Department for the last 23 or 24 plus as the city's building official. Give or take a year or two. He is instrumental in dealing with every one of our residents just about. If you have an issue with your home from a permitting perspective, you're dealing with him or his staff in which he's led for years. So we are sad to see Clark go, but we are very excited that he gets to start that next venture and stuff in his life as far as into retirement. And I keep telling him, stay close. We're still going to have plenty of questions for you and everything else. But he has led a strong group here. Again, the permitting side, all the buildings and vertical construction, homes, businesses you see. This group, the Permits Inspections Group, Clark and his leadership through the years has had a lot to do with the application of those codes and the safety that is paramount to our community as a whole. So I just wanted to make that statement and then just congratulate Clark on his 34 years and 4 months. I ought to get that right because we're counting down, but 34 years and 4 months with the city and retiring as the city's building official. Thank you very much.
Clark, I'm going to read the proclamation, and then I have a few words that I'd like to say. This is a proclamation for Clark Peschel, 34 years and 4 months of public service. Whereas Clark came to the city of Sugar Land on March 4th of 1985, working in the utility department, and progressed to become the building official in 1996, serving in this role for 23 years, delivering exceptional service to our residents and businesses while leading his department through growth and many tough challenges. And whereas Clark has been an integral part of major city milestones, including phenomenal population growth, Sugar Land Town Square and First Colony Mall, Constellation Field, Smart Financial Center, and residential development growth in the First Colony, Telfair, and Imperial communities. He is retiring as the longest tenured building official since the city incorporation in 1959. And whereas Mr. Peschel's 34 years of service to the city's citizens and businesses have been marked by professionalism, caring, integrity, high standards, dedication to responsibilities, close attention to detail, I'll say, keeping the city's vision and interest in high regards, and has earned him the recognition and respect as a leader in his profession. And it's delivered under my hand as the mayor of the city of Sugar Land. Congratulations. For any of you that have ever been on the construction side of the business, on the permits, on plan reviews, you know how hard a job that is. And I can tell you in the 4 years that I was on city council, and actually before that when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then since I've been mayor, Clark Peschel exemplifies what we believe is a perfect employee in demonstrating the Sugar Land Way. And the Sugar Land Way is a way of doing business that puts our citizens first. We're proud of the Sugar Land Way, and we're proud of Clark Peschel. Clark, congratulations. You saying that?
Well, I would like to thank our mayor and city council and a number of former mayors and city council members as well, our city manager and all of the great staff that I've been privileged to work with over the years. It obviously wasn't done alone, and we've had a long run with what has occurred. I would especially like to thank our permits and inspection staff. They do a lot of work every day. It's a tremendous job, and they manage it so well with everything that's going on and has gone on in the city. And I would just like to close out by saying if you look around the town and see what's out there now compared to 1985, yeah, it's a world of difference, and I think we all did a really good job. So thank you very much.
Clark, if I remember, the population when Nancy's parents moved here in 80 was around 6,700. In 85, it was probably around 10. We're 120 now. So that'll kind of put it in perspective of the kind of growth and the achievement that he's had. And thank you, Clark. The picture. Get everybody up here.
Everyone look at here, please. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. For a guy that doesn't like to be in the limelight, that's pretty hard for him to do, to get up here. Before I go to the next item on the agenda, I'd like to do two things. I'd like to recognize the Boy Scouts from Troops 731 and 1731. I'd like to ask them to stand and give their name and what badge they're working on and what troop they're from. Gentlemen?
I'm Roshan. I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
Welcome.
I'm Connor. I'm in 731, and I'm working on the Citizens and Community Merit Badge.
Welcome.
I'm Millen from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
I'm Rudy from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
My name is Nathaniel John from Troop 731. I'm working on the Communications and Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
My name is Andrew John. I'm also from Troop 731, and I'm working on Communications and Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
My name is Deer. I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship and Community Merit Badge.
My name is Art Shaw. I'm working on Troop 731. I'm working on Communityship of the
My name is Shrey Parak. I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
My name is Kevin, and I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
I'm Drew, and I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
I'm Shrey, and I'm from Troop 731, and I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
I think we got a few of the dads down there too. Let them introduce themselves. There you go.
My name is
I was going to
Rahul.
get to you, did you?
That's why I was about to hand it off. My name is Rahul Bajal, and I'm Roshan's dad. I'm here to observe the meeting today.
Hi, my name is Mehul Parekh, and I'm dad of Theer and Dhruv Parekh.
My name is Saji John. I'm an assistant scoutmaster and dad of Andrew John here. My name is Byron Chan, and I'm Assistant Scoutmaster for Troop 731.
My name is Shiv Pathak. I'm Assistant Scoutmaster and Rudy's dad. This is my second meeting, and I'm really delighted to see a lot of my neighbors here.
Thank you all for coming to Sugar Land City Council meeting. Thanks to these dads for leading that. Oh, what? Oh, we missed one. I'm sorry. There's a couple of, there's a group over there. Y'all didn't stand up, so I didn't see you. Thanks, Amesh.
Hi, my name is Jake Kennedy. I'm from Troop 828. I'm working on the Communications Merit Badge.
My name is Oliver, and I'm from Troop 828, and I'm working on the Communications Merit Badge. I'm Anthony Hurtado. I'm from Troop 828, and I'm working on the Citizenship of the Community Merit Badge.
My name is Andrew Hurtado. I'm from Troop 828, and I'm working on the Citizenship of the Community Merit Badge.
Well, thank y'all for coming tonight. I miss any more? I got it. Before I give the council members a chance to say a few words about their colleague, I'd like to recognize some former council members that we have in the audience. We've got Miss Amy Mitchell, former District 3. Yeah, it's 2 now, but it was 3. And then former District 1, Don Smithers. And any other Sugar Land council members? And then MJ Kahn from the city of Houston. Yeah. All right. Himesh, I think you wanted to.
Mayor, I'll start off. So I'm probably the puppy dog that you never wanted, Bridget. I've been following you around. We were together at the Fort Bend Chamber many years ago, Planning and Zoning Commission when you served as the chair of that, and then I've had the honor of serving with you on City Council for the last 8 years. And really one of the memories that I think is important to me is our work with Councilmember Porter on the state-of-the-art theater that we have at University in 59. I think that's one of the most iconic, is the term that you coined, facilities in the entire state, and I think it changed the entire nature of this city. So I really am going to think about those memories that I had. When I think about Councilmember Young, the one word that comes to mind is class. And you really have always served with class and dignity. And the mayor mentioned the Sugar Land Way. You're the embodiment of that. So I really appreciate everything you've done. I'm going to miss you. I'm excited to have Mr. Kamali step up on stage and take the role. He's going to have some big shoes to fill, but I've known Noshad many years, and he's going to be an awesome addition to the city. You have a lot of supporters here, and that tells you that you're backed by many people. Many people have a lot of faith in you, and you're going to do a great job, so welcome. With that, Mayor, thank you.
Anyone else? Steve?
I think one thing Himesh forgot to say is the 2 words we use most often on that task force was
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Bridget is really the one that's responsible for me being on the city council. She chased me around at different events saying, you really ought to run for city council, and I continued to tell her that I wasn't a politician, I wasn't interested in as a politician, but she kept after me, and finally she said, look, come have coffee with me, and I won't bother you ever again. And I thought, well, this is great. I'm finally escaped. So I show up for coffee at Minuti's, and it's not just Bridget, it's the former mayor, Jimmy Thompson. So I had one of them on each of my arms, twisting. The thing that really got me, though, was, and I can't remember whether it was the mayor or Bridget that pinned me down and said, do you like Sugar Land? Why did you move here? And And I said, well, I love the city. And she said, she or the mayor or both of them said, well, it didn't get that way by accident. People had to step up and serve. And so I was kind of in a box and agreed to run for city council. So I appreciate her persistence. I've really enjoyed serving with you, Bridget. Your aesthetic is, I think, adds so much to the city in terms of art, and we'll miss that.
I'll go next. You know, when I came on council, when I just came on, Bridget was one of the people that mentored me. I could always count on Bridget to call me, more often than not, scold me for something that I had done or not done. And I recognized immediately that she would be my conscience, but more than that, a valuable ally, a colleague, a friend, a personal friend, somebody that I could count on to tell me the truth, not what I wanted to hear. When I became mayor, that became even more important. For those that may have served as mayor, people tell you a lot of what they want you to hear, what they think you want to hear. Not very many people will tell you what they believe. I always could count on Bridget to do that. And Bridget has called me a number of times. And now my immediate response is, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? But I will tell you that as the mayor pro tem, she has been a rock. I can always count on her. I can call her any time of the day or night. And she's been able to do the same for me. I've relied on her wisdom. I've relied on her to teach me some of the softer skills of cultural arts, which as an engineer I'm not well versed in. And I've delighted in the way that she took my two colleagues, Hamesh and Steve, and I mean, that was magical the way you worked those guys. I mean, I heard terms coming out of them when they'd give an overview of their committee meeting about talking about color and texture of tiles and things that they never thought about in their entire lives. And it was almost like she had a ring in their nose and was just leading them around. And it was fun. And I'm going to miss you. You're going to work harder now than you ever were on council. Bridget.
Thank you. It truly has been my honor and privilege to be able to serve on City Council. 8 years is a long time, and I've seen us grow in so many ways during this time. During my tenure, Constellation Field opened along with the Smart Financial Center and the Crown Festival site. We started a cultural arts division to advance public art and start supporting the arts within our community. Our own EMS program was started to give our residents quicker response times when an emergency occurs. And we consistently rank as one of the safest cities in Texas and the country, thanks to our great police department. A lot of work was completed on infrastructure, including a $100 million surface water plant, which, by the way, we do have a state rep here, was an unfunded mandate. And millions of dollars were spent on improving our drainage. Many of these projects were in my district, Sugar Creek. One major project was completed just 2 weeks before Harvey, sparing a community from flooding. We also annexed new territory in Greatwood with great success, increasing our population by a third. Our business community continues to grow, adding many jobs and providing a lot of taxable value that helps keep all of our property taxes low. And our airport continues to be one of the best in our state, resulting in many Fortune 500 companies using it. At this time, I'd like to recognize the great staff that I have worked with for 8 years. We have wonderful police chief, fire chief, assistant city managers, not to mention Alan Bogart. And I really give him so much credit for creating such a wonderful culture where we have all these great employees who just truly, truly care about our city, and it's really very humbling to me to see all their great efforts. I would also like to recognize our mayor, Joe. Most people do not even know how much time Joe spends on so many issues, and I know he would be embarrassed for me to say this, but it truly is true. And I see him work behind the scenes and put in so much work and so much care, and so we are very, very blessed to have you. I also worked under former Jimmy Thompson, and I can say the exact same thing about him. We have had just some great mayors. And I'd like to recognize my fellow council members for their continued commitment and continued hard work for our city, because to be on council, you really have to, you probably spend at least 20 hours a week working for the city. And it's all of that hard work, like the reason we recruit Joe. And I'm going to take credit for Don Olson also, because I recruited Don Olson. And it's people who love our city and are willing to put forth so much effort to continue to make it a great place to live. And we're just very, very fortunate. My replacement, as you know, is Nishad Kamali, and I am very confident he will do a good job. He is already a community leader who has been very involved, but more importantly, he is very ethical and hardworking. And so I know that you will take over and do a great job. So that gives me a lot of peace. I appreciate that. Let's see, I think we're going to show a picture of what I'm going to be doing with my time.
Oh, there we are, the babies.
So, thank you. So this is the only time I'm going to start crying is looking at my grandbabies. But anyhow, this will give me a lot more time to spend with my grandchildren, and I definitely will be doing that. In the end, I'd like to say Sugar Land is a great place to live, and I am very, very proud to call it home. Thank you.
Well, you can tell we love her for who she is, and she's done an extraordinary job. We're going to move now to item number 1, canvass the election 1A. First and final consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2166, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, canvassing the returns and declaring the results of a runoff election held on June 8, 2019, to elect a council member to the single-member District 2. I'm going to read a little bit of that ordinance. Section 1 states that at the runoff election, the following votes were cast for the following candidates. Councilmember District 2, Nabila Mansour, 1,353 votes for 42.76% of the vote. Naushad Kermali, 1,811 votes for 57.24% of the vote. Naushad Kermali is the district council member for District 2. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? I've got a second by Porter. Any comments? Vote at this time, please. Hand vote. Right hand. All in favor say aye. Aye. It passes 7-0. And now the all-important part. Oath of office. I, Naushad Kermali, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of City
City of Sugar Land, District 2, City Council member
of the City of Sugar Land,
of the City of Sugar Land,
County of Fort Bend,
County, Fort Bend,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
and to the best of my ability will preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution
protect, and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
and the charter and ordinances of the city.
and the charter and the ordinances of this city.
And I furthermore solemnly swear
And I furthermore solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly
or indirectly paid,
or indirectly paid,
offered,
offered,
or promised to pay,
or promised to pay,
contributed,
contributed,
or promised to contribute any money
or promised to contribute any money
or valuable thing,
or valuable thing,
or promised any public office
or promised any public office
or employment
or employment
as a reward
as a reward
to secure my appointment
to secure my appointment
or the confirmation thereof, so help me God.
or the confirmation thereof, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Wow. Thank you all very much. Earlier, Himesh, you said Bridget's got some big shoes to fill. I know I've got some big heels to fill. And everything that was said about Bridget, it's true. Bridget, thank you for all your service, and it's going to be very tough. But as you said, by being ethical, by doing what I set out to do, it shouldn't be a problem. On December the 13th, on His Highness the Aga Khan's birthday, I set out to give His Highness a gift to become the next city council member for the city of Sugar Land. And here we are, fast forward 6 months later. I'm blessed to have so many people that have surrounded me with love and affection, and so many people that have come into my lives over the past 6 months that I didn't know even 3 weeks ago. So I thank you. I thank all of the city of Sugar Land for coming together and voting at the end of the day and voting for me to get me into office. I'd also love to say thank you to my lovely wife of Norman, my beautiful children, who Aaron is on FaceTime right now because he's at camp in Ohio, and my sister Anar and my Bobby and my in-laws. I couldn't have done this without my family support first, and I'm very, very grateful to all of my family. Many people ask me, how did you do this, Nishad, and how do you get so many volunteers? And I said, it's our community. It's my community. It's our community. We belong to the city of Sugar Land, and I did this for the love of the citizens of now 120,000 citizens of City of Sugar Land, and I look forward to serving each and every one of you with this great group of leaders that sit in front of us as well today. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
We're going to take a very brief recess of 10 minutes and allow people to come up, take pictures with Nishad, take pictures with council, with families. Well, better make it 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes, so we'll reconvene at 6:25.
Yeah, we sure did.
That's a lot of work, and
So happy for him.
well, and Nancy, my wife, and Norman got to be pretty close, and of course she was worried all the time, and people don't realize when you step into that arena, then people say stuff, and it's not true stuff, and that bothers the spouses, and I understand that, so I think Nancy was
Put the hammer down, Jennifer Lady said.
Here we go. Time to go to work.
You gave us 3 minutes extra.
We're going to go ahead and reconvene the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting. Item number 3, public comment. This is reserved for any of the agenda items that don't have a public hearing. So would anybody like to address the council on any of the agenda items that don't have a public hearing? We're going to move on to review the consent agenda. Consent agenda, which is item number 5. These are items that are considered routine business. We'll take them as one item unless a council member pulls one. At that time, we'll pull the item, we'll consider the other items as one, pull that, and we'll consider it separately. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Gandhi, second by Councilmember McCutcheon. If you'll vote at this time, please. Why don't we do a hand vote? Right hand. In favor, say aye. And it passes 7-0. Before I go to the next agenda item, I'd like to welcome our state representative, Rick Miller. Rick, if you could kind of stand and wave a little bit. We appreciate Rick attending our council meetings. We have a good working relationship with Rick and his staff, and we appreciate his service at the state. Item number 6, ordinances and resolutions. 6A, first consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2161, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances to provide for an increase in the tax exemption on a resident's homestead and establishing an effective date. And we have Ms. Jennifer Brown, our Director of Finance. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Over the last several months, we have had lots of discussions with the City Council regarding ongoing constraint in the maintenance and operations budget, as well as in our capital project funding that threatens the Sugar Land Way. Through these discussions, we have identified strategies to restore maintenance and operations funding and a plan for a future bond election to accelerate our ability to complete critical capital projects. The most recent discussion revolved around completion of the remaining 2013 park bond projects through an increase of less than 1 cent on the tax rate, with an increase to the homestead exemption from 10% to 12%. The homestead increase will help offset the impact of the tax increase for the park projects on residential tax bills and help us rebalance the tax burden between residential and commercial. Just a quick update on the status of the projects from that bond election in 2013. We have 3 projects that are complete: the Crown Festival Park, Brazos River Park Phase 2, and the Imperial Connector Trail. The Ditch H Trail is 10% designed, and First Colony Trail is 90% designed, and both are on hold. And the next phase of Brazos River Park is 30% designed, and construction is on hold. The First Colony Trail would fulfill the intent of creating a connected trail network within the First Colony area by building the connections from Lexington Boulevard and Austin Parkway to Woodstream Trail, installing a below-grade crossing on Sweetwater Boulevard, and building the pedestrian bridge connecting from Mesquite Trail to Mesquite Park. This option is the preferred option that was recommended by the Parks Advisory Board last March, and this option includes the realignment that was discussed with the community after the project, or as the project was being designed. The Ditch H Trail would provide a north-south connection between the Imperial Connector Trail and First Colony, with 10-foot wide trail with pedestrian bridges and trailheads. The final project is the Brazos River Park Phase 2, which at the time of the bond election included a mid-lake roadway connecting Brazos River Park and Sugarland Memorial Park, and additional parking. Council has since recommended removing or not including the lake and boathouse from the project due to ongoing concerns with the Brazos River erosion. For all three of these projects, there are still future decisions that must be made by City Council, including refinement of project scopes based on available information and grant opportunities that have been applied for. At our most recent workshop, which was on June 11th, we discussed the outstanding park bond projects with the City Council, along with options for implementing those final projects in the fiscal year 20 CIP. City Council requested at that meeting that the projects be included in the fiscal year 20 CIP for consideration and funding, recognizing the additional work that still needs to be done to refine the scope and amount, and that it would require the issuance of between 8 and 10 million in those general obligation bonds authorized by the voters to be able to fund those projects. The projects can be funded from a tax increase of approximately just under a penny. The actual amount will be dependent on the amount of debt that we're going to issue and the final tax rolls that come in. And the recommendation was also to raise the homestead exemption from 10% to 12%, and that increase will help mitigate the impact on residential tax bills. Basically, it's going to be a neutral impact compared to what the tax bills would be under the normal effective +3 scenario. So basically, the homestead increase almost offsets the increase in the tax rate. So just a little history on our historical city homestead exemptions. So state law provides for a local option homestead. They must be stated in percentages, whole percentages, and the minimum exemption is 1% or $5,000 worth of value, and a maximum of 20%. Prior to 2007, the city offered this minimum 1% exemption with the $5,000. In 2007, the strategy changed at the city, and it was increased to 5%, then 7% the following year, and it stayed there for 6 years. In 2015, it was raised another 1% to 8%, and then a year later to 10%, where it has been for the last 3 tax years. The benefits of moving forward with the strategy, as we've discussed with City Council, is that the city is able to meet the commitments of the 2013 bond election by completing the projects that are outstanding. This allows the city to set the stage for future GO bond elections, which will be needed to fund the capital needs of the city. By raising the tax rate and adjusting the homestead exemption, the city is minimizing the impact on residential tax bills based on historical lower growth in commercial values. This allows the residents to benefit by having the non-residential properties support the majority of the cost of implementing the projects. With that, staff recommendation is for consideration and approval of first reading of ordinance number 2161. This would amend the residential homestead exemption for property taxes, and that would be effective for tax year 2019, so the tax bills that are going to go out in the fall, from 10% to 12%. It's an increase of 2% in the exemptions. Upon approval, the second reading will be placed on the July 25th agenda. This will allow the city to meet the statutory deadline of June 30th for changes in the homestead exemption, and that will allow is what will allow that homestead exemption to be included on this year's tax bills. There will still be public notices and public hearings on the actual tax rate after the city receives the certified tax roll and calculates the effective tax rates, and actual tax rate adoption will occur in September after those public hearings. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Commissioner.
Once we set the 12, if we give the approval tonight in the next meeting, once it's set at 12%, it'll always stay at 12% unless the city council then either raises it again or decides to lower it at some point, right?
That is correct.
It doesn't have like some automatic expiry, or
No.
it doesn't default back to anything?
No,
Okay.
it is a permanent exemption unless it is changed by future city councils.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to make a couple of comments. One, this city council took this up this year, and there was a lot of discussion. I credit Steve Porter and Hamesh and Carol McCutcheon of being very insistent on the fact that we need to fulfill our commitment to the park bonds and build at least what we're able to build or what makes sense to build. We've always chosen to provide tax relief to our residents by increasing the homestead exemption. The reason that is because that allows a tax exemption for the residents, but it does not for the commercial value in the community. In the years that I've been on council and the years that I've now been mayor, I've never ever had a corporation come to me and say, I think your tax rate's too high. Our residential tax rate is 31762. We can call it 32 cents. It's the second lowest for a city of our size in the state of Texas. And it, I think I know in my heart of heart with the service level that the city provides, it's an extraordinary deal. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to raise the homestead exemption from 10 to 12%. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by McCutcheon. Any other discussion? You'll vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Item number 6B, first consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2163, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending Section 2.3 of the Code of Ordinances relating to single-member City Council district boundaries. We've got our expert on that topic, the James Calloway, Director of Special Projects, and our own City Attorney, Meredith Reedy. Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As an expert on this topic, I'm here to tell you that this is the end of redistricting. A project that has been near and dear to my heart. Tonight we're talking a little bit about why it needed to occur, what we did, how we went through the process, and what this ordinance does. So why do we redistrict? Because we grew. We grew by over 30%. We added 2 large communities into our corporate limits. And the law requires that our single-member districts be balanced. Some criteria we have to follow: federal law, state law. We have to use the most recent federal census as the basis for determining the populations of our districts. We have guidelines that the council adopted by resolution. They incorporated those same federal and state requirements. They gave us guidance as far as what kind of boundaries to follow, keeping communities of interest together, respecting and recognizing constituents, preserving minority voting groups. You appointed a redistricting committee to give you recommendations. They went through a process. They brought you a recommendation. You adopted it as an ordinance, and it really established 2 sets of districts. One, a new set of districts for all purposes related to the 2019 election, and then for all purposes thereafter. But the old district stayed in place until the election was finished for all other purposes not related to the election. The election finished tonight, and the old districts have gone away. What we've brought to you and what Meredith has prepared is an ordinance that codifies our 2019 district boundaries. It's really a housekeeping cleanup act, but as I said, as an expert, it is the end of the redistricting process. Alan, that means no more whiteboard updates, no more memos, no more web pages, no more implementation, or any of those things. So, next steps, first reading of the ordinance, and it will be on your July 2nd meeting for second reading. Do you have any clarifying questions for staff? If you do, I'd be happy to address them, unless they're difficult, in which case I will refer them to Meredith.
Thank you, Jim. Questions? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by McCutcheon, second. Got a second by Gandhi. A little bit slow tonight, guys. Any other questions? Go ahead and vote at this time. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Jim. Item number 6C, first consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2164. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, repealing ordinance 1628 relating to the operation of the photographic traffic signal enforcement system, otherwise known as red light cameras. Our own Chief of Police, Eric Robbins. Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. It is my honor to be here. Obviously, this is to talk about the repeal of our ordinance, which gave us the authority to utilize the red light cameras. Before I do that, I'd just like to say and talk a little bit about red light camera and this whole program. When we, as police officers, when we see citizens run red lights, we stop them, and the first question we ask is, why did you run the red light? And most of the time it's because they were in a hurry. And so what we're saying is this is not about the program in and of itself, it's about safety. When you get in a hurry, that you can easily have an accident. So we want to try and encourage our citizens that this is about safety. Most of the complaints we typically get, we see 3 specific complaints: speeders, running stop signs, and running red lights. And with this program, it basically allowed us the ability to not have to sit at every red light. We cannot be everywhere all the time, but we're going to need additional resources to help us to get through this process. We're going to have some more officers, some more staffing, so that we can manage and monitor these intersections and these red lights. So that's what this is about, is to make this program and to make our city safe, to make our drivers who come through the city as safe as possible. So I'll go over a little bit of the history of this program, talk about the effectiveness, talk about the legislative bill 1631 and what it actually did for us and how it affected us, and basically going forward. As you know, back in July of 2007 is when this ordinance that we have is ordinance number 1628, when it was actually put into effect. And we know from a police standpoint that the program was very effective. Originally at the onset, the first couple of years, we saw a 58% reduction in accidents. So the program was effective, allowing us to augment our officers and put officers in other intersections and other locations and drive through our neighborhoods and keep our city safe. We originally had 8 initial locations, and as we saw compliance originally, we moved some of those, we actually took down some of those cameras. When we saw the accident rates going down and we saw violations going down, and the intersections became more safer, we actually took down some of those cameras because of compliance. So those were the few that we took down at the beginning of the program in 2011 through 2012. Eventually, through not only from just looking at the data, looking at the accident crashes, but also talking to our citizens and looking at the complaints. I'll tell you, we added 3 cameras, or actually 4 cameras in this particular slide here. But if you think about the intersections of University and Elkins, for example, there's a middle school right there, Fort Settlement Middle School. We got tremendous amounts of complaints about speeders and the safety of our kids in those intersections. Those cameras really allowed us to benefit. We set a patrol car out there. Most people will slow down, most people will stop. But we have to have the ability to utilize our officers in different locations, in different places, investigate accidents along Highway 59 and Highway 6. So those cameras were a very, very effective tool for us. And again, a lot of these cameras came out of just literally citizens' requests, particularly Eldridge and Lombardi. Right now, these are locations that we have that were recently we had for our red light cameras. We had 9. And what I also want to point out is some of these, every year, and the next slide will prove that to you, every year we come to City Council, we do an annual report, and we talk about the top location accidents in our city. And we're not only talking about accidents in the intersection, but we're talking about accidents in the areas. Those locations in red are actually those intersections that had red light cameras. And as you can see, 2 of them were in the top 7 of our highest locations for collisions in those areas. So by taking them away, it's basically kind of limiting and putting some handcuffs on us, for lack of a better term, but limiting our ability to really enforce and keep those citizens safe in those areas. So this is what the program was meant to us, and this is what it did. the ban, as Governor signed on June the 1st, June the 2nd, effectively, we turned off all the cameras. We took down all the signs. We're working with the vendor. We do have a wind down phase for this entire program. Anyone that's been caught with a red light violation camera at any time now, if they have not paid it, those fines have been omitted. They do not have to pay them. We're going to abide by the law, but we still going to have to keep our citizens safe. So again, we have a phase down. This information has been posted on our website. It's been posted on social media, exactly what to do, who to call. We're still fielding phone calls about this program, but we are letting all our citizens know that, hey, effective June the 2nd, the program went away. So that's where we're at. But going forward, what am I going to have to do as a police chief? I'm going to have to put out resources. I'm going to have to monitor these locations, and specifically during our peak traffic times. Obviously, the cameras were there 24/7. How can I have an officer sitting in these locations 24/7? I'm going to have to really be creative with my resources for right now. I'm going to have to look at specifically those high peak times. We're going to have to look at, our accident investigations and having our officers do a little bit more. I'm also going to come to council. During our next budget request, I'm asking for additional officers. I'm asking for overtime. Currently, we're going to need that money to literally go out there and see what the effect of this program being removed. So I'm going to need more resources. I'm going to need more officers. But starting off, I'm trying to be reasonable as far as saying, hey, taking away these cameras, it's going to take a whole lot of resources. But from a reasonable standpoint, I'm looking at one officer originally and more overtime that will be needed to help these officers. I don't want to kill my officers by just having them work overtime constantly, but we're definitely going to need some more resources. And we will be coming back through the budget process and start talking about it. But originally, I will be monitoring all the intersections, not only the intersections that had cameras there, but all these intersections, specifically the ones with the high collisions. And we got to look at how we're going to continue to make the city safe, continue to keep our traffic flowing as freely as possible. But those red light cameras were a big tool for us. So again, we're going to have to monitor it. We're going to have to need more resources. And so right now we're in the first reading of this ordinance to repeal the original ordinance. And then, of course, I'll come back to you with the second ordinance for approval. So with that, short presentation, but I'd love to have any questions.
Alan. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to also add to Eric's comments that we are in a completely different time in our state today from any time that I've seen in almost 45 years of public service. And that is that when the legislature meets in Austin, the effect on the local communities is negative, and it is, in fact, making our community less safe. This is not the first action that has been taken. A little while back, you'll recall, it was 2 years, 3 years ago, the city council had adopted a hands-free driving where individuals were going to be fined, ticketed, if they were texting while they were driving, if they had a phone in their hand. We know it's unsafe to drive that way, but yet the ordinance that our city passed had to be removed because of the Texas legislature,
yes,
because of actions that were taken in Austin. Here we have another one. So I hope that as time goes on, there's going to be an opportunity for us to have more dialogue with the leadership in Austin and get them back on the team for helping local communities build safe communities, because it's not happening anymore. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alan. Eric, some of the facts. The city of Sugar Land, I've received a lot of emails about some people accusing us of using it as a revenue source, which is laughable. The facts of the matter are that we proved by moving those cameras around that we could reduce the number of violations at a given intersection.
Yes.
And which provided a safer public result than what we have now. As Alan said, the legislature in their infinite wisdom has thought better of that. And of course, we're going to comply, and we're smart people, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But in figuring it out, it will require more resources from the police department to provide the same level of protection, of safety. And I would urge any of you as taxpayers to send a very clear message to the governor, lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House. And that is that you don't appreciate them transferring that tax burden to you.
Right.
I would also tell you that of the $75 on a red light camera, the state got $37.50. That actually went to the trauma center at hospitals. They now have to make up that shortfall in revenue. The other $37.50 we got as the city. Now, if you get a ticket from an officer or light, and the other thing about a red light camera is it didn't go on your record because there was no report that was filled out and completed and sent to the insurance companies. The insurance companies were actually in favor of removing red light cameras so they could get an accurate picture of how many people are running red lights.
Right.
So now we're faced with the unenviable decision of providing additional resources in order to protect our public. And that to me that's the unfortunate outcome of the state legislature that we have, the governor, lieutenant governor, and Speaker of the House. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mesh?
And I think it was several years ago, if you recall, the city council actually appointed a citizens task force to look at the issue of red light cameras, and they actually had open sessions where they surveyed the public, and the public went to them, and that task force, their findings were that this was a good program and needed to stay in place, and that's actually why it continued all these years. So the citizens had spoken, actually, about this issue, but from locally they spoke, but the folks in the state level have now superseded the voice of the people.
Well, they're much smarter than we are. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. Yeah, I've got a second by Kermally. Any other discussion? If you vote at this time, please. And it's a 7-0 vote. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Item number 7, workshop 7A, review of and discussion on the City of Sugar Land's stormwater management program. We've got Ms. Taylor Denisi, our environmental manager. Good evening, Taylor.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Before I begin, I would like to introduce Jason Maldonado with RJN Group. He is the consultant that has been assisting us with our stormwater program development and implementation. Tonight, I'll be providing a brief history on the Phase 2 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System General Permit, what the program requirements are under that general permit. I'll talk about the renewal process that we're currently in and the modifications that are being required to our program, what the budgetary impacts are of those modifications, and where we go from here. The original Phase 2 Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System General Permit was issued by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, in August of 2007. This is an unfunded mandate that's delegated to the TCEQ by the Environmental Protection Agency with the goals of protecting water quality and reducing the pollutants in stormwater runoff. Under this general permit, the city is required to develop a 5-year stormwater management program, or SWAMP, and we have to identify the activities that we're going to undertake to promote those program goals. We obtained our initial permit coverage in 2007, and we're currently in our 3rd permit renewal, which will carry us from 2019 through 2024. The program requirements are based on a tiered population approach. The city was originally classified as a level 3 operator for cities with populations between 40,000 and 100,000. And again, we were required to develop that 5-year stormwater management program, which was originally based on a series of 5 minimum control measures. Those control measures being public education, outreach and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management in new development and redevelopment, and pollution prevention and good housekeeping for municipal operations. We're required to specify the best management practices that we're going to implement for each one of those minimum control measures. We also have to identify the measurable goals and an implementation schedule for each. We're required to submit annual reports to the TCEQ to document our progress, and we're expected to have full program implementation within the 5-year term. Historically, at the end of the 5 years, TCEQ has renewed the general permit. We're currently required to renew our stormwater permit this year. Because of our population, our classification has shifted from a level 3 to a level 4 operator, and that's going to require that we add in some new stormwater activities and programs into our swamp. There was also some general permit modifications made by the TCEQ and EPA, which were going to require some additional activities to be implemented. One of the modifications made because of our classification shift is the development of an industrial inspection program. We're required to develop an inventory of all public and private facilities that will be subject to inspection. We have to identify the priorities and the procedures for those inspections, and then we have to actually conduct the inspections of all those facilities within the 5-year permit term. We're currently looking at somewhere between 40 and 50 facilities that will require inspection. We're also required to develop and implement a post-construction inspection program. This will require that we conduct on-site inspections of the permanent stormwater controls that are built into sites to ensure they're being maintained and functioning properly. And we have to provide oversight to the city's pesticide, herbicide, and fertilizer application programs. One of the modifications to the permit requirements that was made by TCEQ is the addition of a floatables control program. We currently have one floatable control structure installed at Jane Long Lake, but the permit will require that we install another structure within the city. Both of those structures require semi-annual maintenance, and we will have to report on the amount of material that is collected at both. We also have to develop written procedures for how those control measures will be maintained. Lastly, the TCEQ is requiring that we assess flood control projects for their impact to stormwater. They're requiring that the future control structures provide erosion prevention and pollutant removal, and that we look at possibly retrofitting existing structures to the maximum extent possible. We also have to continue our program expansion into new territory in Greatwood and ensure that all of our outreach and inspection programs are fully implemented in those areas. We utilized a consultant to identify the funding and staff resources that would be needed to implement our swamp across that 5-year permit term. It was identified that we would need 2 additional staff members and additional program funding that would be spread out throughout the 5 years. We have worked to spread out our program implementations across the entire 5 years in order to limit the financial impacts. Any budget requests that we do have will be presented during the budget workshop process. Our next steps are for City Council to review and ultimately approve the swamp in early July, and then we'll be submitting the swamp to TCEQ for final approval later that month. We'll also be evaluating a potential funding source through Budget's fee review project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Steve?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for this sad news. Can you say more about inspections, especially that 40 or 50 businesses? How invasive are they? How often do they occur? What are they just?
So the inspections that we have to conduct are ensuring that the industrial facilities are in compliance with TCEQ's multi-sector general permit. We have not put together the inspection program yet. That's something that's currently in the works. But we will have to do those inspections at all the facilities we've identified.
So the TCEQ set some standards, and then they said, oh, by the way, you can inspect to see if people are meeting them?
Yes, exactly.
Well, that was nice.
Well, that's the EPA. It's under
Delegated
the
to the
Clean Water Act
TCEQ.
of the Environmental Protection Agency. It's where the federal legislation and the TCEQ is mandated by the EPA to develop their own program, and then they mandated all of us to develop our own programs, and it kind of cascades down.
So, I mean, do you have any idea about what the impact's going to be on our business community? I mean, it's like once a year, somebody drops by and talks to somebody, their environmental manager, or we go by and have multiple passes to see what's working and not?
We're currently, so all of the requirements that we'll be inspecting on are things that they already have to be in compliance, and they should be implementing those measures already on site. What we've looked at is conducting one inspection per facility.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
We're going to move on now to item number 8, City Council City Manager Reports. Item number 8A, City Council Member Reports. Stuart, let's start with you.
Mayor, since our last meeting, the last report in reverse chronological order, I completed the Texas Attorney General Public Information Act training. I attended a Fort Bend County Lid 2 community meeting to discuss the May 7th flooding event. I attended a mini orientation regarding city business. I attended the Brazos River Technical Workshop and the Citizens Fire Academy Alumni Association annual awards meeting.
Thank you, Stuart. Ramesh.
Mayor, just 2 items to report. Last night, the Cullinan Foundation had one of their advisory and friends meeting. I thought it was really well attended. I know several of our council members were there. And I, too, attended the Fire Alumni Award ceremony.
Well, Shad, you've been just working hard just getting elected.
I have been, but getting trained over the last 10 days and drinking from the fire hose. No pun intended for our fire chief in back there. But I also attended the Indian Muslim Associations of Greater Houston Eid program, and I also attended the Ibn Sina Medical Clinic grand opening of their behavioral health center on their Wellcrest clinic, so I did do those.
Thank you. Carol.
Okay. Well, in addition to what Councilmembers Ghani and Jacobson mentioned, Councilmember Lane and I attended the State of the City of Higher Education with the University of Houston, Houston Community College, and Texas State Technical College. And I attended a Fort Bend County Lid 2 meeting with Austin Meadow, where they discussed the $45 million pump station that would be built in their neighborhood. And the mayor, Councilmember Lane, and I attended the State of the City of Richmond.
Thank you, Carol. Steve.
Most everything's been mentioned. I will add that the Citizens Fire Academy Alumni Association has really made an impact on our fire department. I think almost all of us were there, and the fire department just could not have been more excited about how supported they feel by this Alumni Association. So it's a great thing, and my thanks to those that are in the Alumni Association.
Thanks, Steve. Jennifer.
Well, everybody's covered all of mine. But I am going to have to dismiss the mayor and council fish fry and Thompson's. I'm going to go to the LID meeting in New Territory coming up.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to mention 2 things. I'm going to mention the extraordinary job that staff did when we had the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We hosted them here for a discussion on the Brazos River erosion and soliciting their support. And then I attended a LID 2 meeting today where I expressed my displeasure at the federal lobbying effort, any effort really that would divert funds away from solving drainage problems in the city of Sugar Land for something like federal lobbying. That should be done by the county and the city of Sugar Land, not LID 2. So item number 8, 8B, the city manager report. Alan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask if I could postpone until after our executive session discussion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move to item number 9, closed executive session. 9A, closed executive session is authorized by Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with Section 551074 personnel matters, and that's for the purpose of discussion with respect to the city manager quarterly performance report, and we are going to recess into the council dining room. return to item number 8B, the city manager report. Alan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I want to start by thanking you, Mayor Zimmerman, and the City Council for your understanding and support over the last several months as I have dealt with personal and family health issues. And Mayor, you have been very supportive. You filled a lot of gaps for me, and I appreciate the backing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Secondly, I want to thank my leadership team because they also have been carrying the load and not losing a step in keeping Sugar Land moving forward. This includes my assistant city managers, Doug Brinkley, Jennifer May, Chris Stubing, Cindy Dees, and city directors, and many others. This evening, I notified the mayor and city council of my plan to retire in January 2020. I am confident that this leaves plenty of time for the city council to be able to conduct a nationwide search for my replacement. I'm also choosing this time because I'm very confident in this city council's ability and judgment to make the necessary decisions on hiring a new city manager. When I accepted this position in October of 2001, I committed to deliver the city to my successor in as good or better condition than when I took the position. David Neely, my successor, had done such a great job building Sugar Land, I felt like I needed to make the same commitment. With the current condition of the city, our financial strength, the fact that we're safer than ever before, and an organization committed to the Sugar Land way, I feel I have achieved my commitment. Much has been achieved over nearly 20 years as city manager, the credit for which belongs to courageous, ethical, elected leaders and our outstanding employees. I want to thank this city council and previous mayors and councils who have given me the opportunity to serve as Sugar Land city manager. This time has been the culmination and highlight of my 44-year public service career. Of course, I will continue to serve the Sugar Land community as needed through January 2020 and beyond as future opportunities are presented. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sir. And that's all I had, Mayor.
Motion adjourned.
Thank you.
Sure, you have 3 points climbing on a ladder.